Alright, and we're recording. Welcome to the 14 of you that I see right there, and welcome to my presentation about Smashborg with some more fun numbers. Remember Midgard? If you remember what I did for Midgard, then you'll probably recognize the format I'm going to be laying upon you. It's just for fun. Keep in mind that this is meant to offend nobody, and it's just meant for entertainment, and that is completely it. So let's start just like we did for Midgard, the participants. Where are they from and how many? In total, there were 128 people that were registered, and 9 DQ'd on Saturday, and 1 more DQ'd for Sunday. All the DQs were actually Norwegian. This makes it so that on the first day, there were 119 players, of which 70 were Norwegian, 26 were Swedes, 7 Icelanders, 6 Danish, 5 Finnish, 2 Japanese, 1 American, 1 English, and 1 Swiss. There's a nice little chart here that made from a third-party software because Excel is ass at making charts. It kind of looks nice. Nice little red there. And let's keep going. So, okay. I was contemplating not putting this in, but I kind of wanted to do it for the sake of numbers and comparisons. On the right, you have Midgard. On the left, you have Smashborg. You would expect there to be as many Swedes at Midgard as there were Norwegians at Smashborg, and as many Norwegians at Midgard as there have been at Swedes at Smashborg. However, there is a tiny bit of discrepancy, especially Norwegians dominating the amount of people participating at Smashborg. It's not too bad though, because in terms of invaders from Sweden and Norway itself, this indicates to me that it's actually the people from outside of the Nordic countries that are making this much of a difference. And some Danish. The DQers! There were 9 DQs for day 1, as I said. They are right there on display. There was Mo, Color, Rixto, who DQ'd on day 2. Lingmo, Itazan, Zelto, Windkiller, Dinhoff, Zero Sko H, and Aspagus. Mo and Color are actually pretty important because there have been a lot of upsets, as you probably remember from Smashborg. And Mo's DQ, as we're gonna see in a second, was really relevant to one way to top 8. So the intent was clearly to have 128 players and divide them between 16 pools, so therefore have 8 players per pool. However, the good thing about the statistics report is that no pool had more than 1 DQ from it, which means that only 9 out of 16 pools had 1 less person, which is very beneficial when you calculate stuff like seeding averages and whatnot. Most DQ affected the bracket in a very interesting way. Because Hope got upset and came out second out of his pool, Mo would have been seeded to lose to Hope and win round 1, and then go for losers, beating Woofy for 9th and Melly for top 8, losing to Amble for 7th. It's interesting, but would not have majorly affected the bracket in any other way. The other DQs actually don't affect the bracket at all. That's kind of how it turned out. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? Did I DQ? You did not DQ. Also, yeah, Pfeiffer, we'll get to that in a second. Full upsets. There were a lot of upsets this tournament. A lot of them happened in pools. Do you guys like the graphic? What do you think of the graphic? It's pretty good, right? It's pretty good graphic. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Based? Nice. Alright, so the way this is gonna go is that since round robin pools is a bit of a mess, I'm going to be highlighting every single upset that was significant in pools. So this means that if there were upsets between 2 players that would not have gone out anyway, I'm not gonna write it. However, if there was an upset between a lower seeded player that beat a higher seeded player, and because of that the other guy had a slight chance of losing, it's gonna be in there. So in Pool A1, we had Surfresh with 64th seed going over Stig for 65th for 3rd and 4th seed respectively. Huge upset, I'm aware. In A2, we had Canary Bird take out Mysterio for 2nd and 3rd seed. They had the same set count, but the Canary had the game count. Logisticos went over MM720 for 4th seed. And Pyri won against Canary Bird, almost making it so that Mysterio would not make it past pools, because the way it would have worked is that Pyri Pari would have been able to tie the score between Canary to do a 3-way tie. And because of set count and head-to-head, Mysterio had a chance to even not make it out. Instead, Mysterio makes it out for 3rd. A3. We had Risto upsetting Xing for 4th seed. We had Linnesu upsetting Jägerlilla. But Xing won against Linnesu, which made it easier for Jägerlilla to come out 2nd seed anyway. In A4, we have Alex Stark upsetting Pfeiffer for 1st seed. Minimo was then seeded to lose earlier because of this, having to play against Pfeiffer. And because of more upsets, Minimo had to lose even earlier because Tsun got out. But we'll get to that in a second. There was no upsets in the full of Minimo, and honestly, bad for him. If he got out 2nd, probably would have had a better bracket. In A6, we had Dato King upset Kisen for 3rd and 4th seed, and Hilmer over Eilift in a 2-1, almost making it possible for Dato King to get out a 2nd seed, knocking Eilift down to 3rd. In A7. So A7 is a bit complicated, so I'll explain. A bunch of upsets happened to cause a triple tie between Dr. Bustdown, Bollifire, and Awesomeby for 4th seed. Bollifire and Reikrek were supposed to go out 3rd and 4th seed, but Reikrek and Awesomeby both upset the Bollifire, making Reikrek take the 3rd seed, and Dr. Bustdown, in the middle of it all, just decided, I have the head-to-head and I have the game count. I'm going to go 4th instead. So Bollifire got eliminated early. In A8, we had Bambi over Woofy for 1st and 2nd seed, and this made it possible for Tsun and Woofy to meet really early, and for Woofy to upset Tsun, and then Tsun to beat Minimo, and it doesn't end. It doesn't end, dude. It does not end. And then we had Little Crip over Caber for 4th seed. Let's go for Pool B. V1. We had Tylon winning over Varavi for 2nd seed. Since we know what happened during winner round 1 of main bracket, this is pretty big. Nizoxy won over Hope for 1st seed. This made it so Hope had to play BG Tao for top 8 qualifiers, whom he lost to, into Amble, whom he also lost to. He otherwise would have had to go through Ton and Airfuse, which considering DreamHack Winter would have been a lot easier for Hope. Let's go round robin. V3, Soulja Boy Tellum over Ichi for 4th seed. B4, Victorious over Solar, Victorious over Kira42, Penguin over Solar, and Radagast over Solar. In the end, the order for pools B4 ended up being Tsun, Victorious, who was predicted 4th originally, Kira42 predicted 2nd, and Penguin predicted 5th. Victorious taking 2nd seed. B5. We had Trollo over Trolls for 1st seed, and Klaken74 over Drollo. Klaken tied with Simmel with set wins, and even though Simmel won the head-to-head, Klaken won more games. The order ended up being Drollo, meant to be 3rd, 2nd without Mo, Trulls, who was meant to be 2nd with Mo, Klaken, who was meant to be 5th with Mo, and Simnil, who was meant to be 4th with Mo. And Mo's DQ was actually pretty impactful. Again, Simmel and Klaken had same game count, but Klaken got the better end of it because percentage head to head. B6 we had Nimue over Raven, Sloborob over Raven, ASLK over Raven, and this made it so that Raven, who was predicted 3rd, was now out. Schnibble took 3rd and Nimue took 4th. This was from same game count, advantageous head to head, because Nimue and Schnibble tied. Airfuse and Rykos for 1st and 2nd seed, respectively. B7 was an extremely weird pool, and honestly one of the most impactful pools in the entire tournament. Yoppo won over Leoven, and then Eso won against Yoppo. This turned into a 3-way tie for all of them, with identical set count. Individual games came in the picture, and head-to-head allowed Eso to come out on top. Leoven predicted 1st, ended up 3rd. Yoppo stayed 2nd. Eso predicted 3rd, ended up 1st. Considering that Eso had to play Marwin for top 8 qualifier, Leoven would have been seeded to get the top 8 by beating Marwin if he had gotten out 1st seed. You know, I have a lot of things to say about round robin, but showing you this already says a lot, considering that if we go by seeding, Leoven had no right. Like, he was guaranteed top 8 by seeding if he had gotten first. So it's the way it be. And then the last pool, we had Joe a lot upsetting high GSP. Joe a lot over Black Renown. They lost to Joe a lot, meant Black Renown lost more games than Marwin. So even though they had the same sector record, and Black Renown beat Marwin, Marwin still got out first. And so therefore, the win against Marwin from Black Renown didn't matter at all. Joe a lot and high GPS simply swapped places. Joe a lot taking 3rd seed and high GPS taking 4th seed. Considering that Marwin made it to the top 8, the seeding outcome proved to be extremely significant, as whoever got 1st seed would have been seeded into top 8, beating ASO. Again, another example of round robin being a bit fucky. Allowing... Yeah, I mean, if Black Renown had gotten 1st seed, this... Are we back? Are we back? Don't worry, I'll crop this out if anything. I should probably not touch the mic. Thank you for telling me I'm back. Either way, considering that Marwin made it into top 8, it would have meant Black Renown would have gone into top 8 instead of Marwin. That's basically what that would mean. And for round robin to mean that much, it's a big deal. So, pools are now done. This is the demographic of top 64. 16 Swedes remained, 10 got eliminated, 35 Norwegians, so exactly 50% of them got eliminated. No Danish were eliminated, and therefore 6 of them remained. 2 Finnish got eliminated, 3 remaining. There's 1 English, which is minimal, 0 Americans, 0 Swiss people, and there's 1 Japanese player left, UUIT+. So, here's the before and after. As you can see, not much of a difference, at least not very big. As a matter of fact, the Swedes populate more of the chart solely because we had less people eliminated than Norwegians. But Norwegians still hanging up there. Honestly, in terms of percentage, not really that bad. Pretty good. Best placing by Norway countries. Okay, let's start. Who was the highest placing Norwegian? Come on. Not very hard. Anvil. It was Anvil. Who was the highest placing? Swede. Mr. Big Chungus himself, with an upset factor of 2. It's him. It's Big Chungus. Big Chungus got first. Very good. I think next we have Denmark. Who was the highest placing Danish player? It's not hard. It's not hard. Who was the highest placing Danish? Hope, Soon, Emmy. It seems like... Okay, well, I mean, that was actually for later. But I'll keep that for there. Who was the highest placing Icelander? Icelander. Keep it there. Who was the highest placing Icelander? Eiley? Eiley and Dr. Bastian with 49. CD factors of -1 and 1 respectively. I think now there's Denmark. So let's reveal it. It was Melly. He got 7th with a CD factor of 1. Come on. He literally played Anvil for 5th. SMH. Who's the last? Finland. Who was the highest place in Finland? Do I have to ask? Do I have to ask who was the highest place in Finnish? It was Lancelot. With a CD factor of -1. And then we had the best placing for everyone else. There was Minimo with 25th representing England. He kind of got messed up due to round robin pools. We have Japan with UUIT Plus with 33rd. We have Umizumi with 65th and a seed factor of 1. And America with a seed factor of 0 at 130th place. Best seeding upset for Nordic countries. Okay, this gets a bit more interesting. Who upset their seed the most in Sweden? There's a Tylon. There's a Vic. Come on. More feedback. Clock in. More feedback. More feedback. I'm giving you 10 more seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe 5 for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, some of you were right, but it's actually a 4-way tie between Pfeiffer, I Refuse, Marwin, and Victorious, all having upset their seed by 3. Pfeiffer from 7th went to 3rd, I Refuse from 12th went to 5th, Marwin from 17th went to 7th, and Victorious from 57th went down to 17th, being eliminated by seeds number 1 and 2 in the tournament, so potentially even higher, but we will never know because round robin pools. Okay, well, Norway, I already spoiled it, but who was the best seeding outside Norwegian? I already spoiled it, if you looked. But maybe you didn't. Keter 42. Seems I have all time. Hello? Let's go, Keter. Nah, it's Aso. Who has set his seed by 4 and actually upset his seed the highest in the entire tournament. He went from 46th to 9th. Oh, it's Keter, you're wrong. I don't think so. What about Iceland? What are we thinking? Dr. Bust down? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was Dr. Bust down and Hilmir who upset their seed by 1. It was 2 people. I would like to meet Dr. Bust down just for that tag, by the way. Pretty good tag. And then this meant that Dr. Bust down went from 77th to 49th, and Hilmer from 108th to 81st. But did not make it out of pools, unfortunately. He was really close, though. Because of the eye lift win, if I remember correctly. Denmark! Who was the best seeding upset for Denmark? Hope? Emmy. Hope. Emmy, I think. The answer is Emmy, who upset his seed by 2, from 27th to 13th place. And now, Finland, who had the highest upset factor for Finland. IGSP, Pyrie, What the Finland, my goat. It is revealed to be What the Finland, along with Lancelot, were the only 2 Finns to make it out of groups. With the Finland with a seed factor of 0 and Lancelot with a seed factor of -1, getting second in the tournament. However, Pyrie had an upset factor of 2, with a pool of no DQs, going from 99th to 65th, and he barely didn't make it out, beating Canary Bird 2-1 and going 1-2 against Mysterio. He was this close. This close. Okay, so here we go. Round robin pools, loved by many, hated by just as many, caused very weird main brackets. Some people benefited from not getting out first of their pool, for example. Because of this, I thought it would be interesting to show a value for the upsets made in order to achieve placements relative to seeding factor. I call this the sweat factor, how hard you had to sweat for your bracket. So this is the sweat factor for top 24. As you can see, the most impressive run was Asos, with a seeding factor that matched the sweat factor, meaning that all of his seeding upsets were relative to upsets. To upsets in the actual gameplay, with sets. Zaro and Victorious's were also pretty noteworthy because of their sweat factor of 3, which also match, if I remember correctly, their seeding factor, which means that all three of their placings were relative to upset. Big Chungus, I Refuse, Tyron, and Zoxley were also impressive, beating their seed by 2. Also beating 2 people with a higher projected seed to do so. Well, you see, I Refuse 1, 2. I will remove myself really fast so you can see it. Give me just a second. It's this. I think this is a very interesting way to illustrate the insanity that were the results of round robin pools seeding this time around. Of the top 8 and of the people who had a positive seeding factor, the only people with a positive sweat factor were Big Chungus, BG Tao, Lancelot, I Refuse, who beat Anvil twice, and Anvil, who beat Hope. Put differently, because of the upsets of those that were seeded to make top 8, BG Tao's run became much harder, having to beat Hope into Chungus into Lancelot earlier than he should have, and Anvil somewhat harder, having to beat Hope in losers for qualifying for top 8, and Pfeiffer's much easier. Welcome back. Here we move on. So, best player offsets. We move on. Actually, hang on. We want to see it again? Here. He's running around being Roy. Meow. 48% according to people. 48% he died at. So, best player upsets continues. There were around a total of 60 plus minus 2. I actually failed to count after a certain amount of upsets this tournament between pools and bracket. I had to at some point it was 58, and then I had to re-go through the entire bracket to make sure my calculations were correct. I don't want to present something wrong, and I think I might have counted some people less and one person more. So I'm gonna say plus minus 2, so 60 upsets. Assuming I counted correctly. Most of the pools offsets are reasonable to show, so that you can see how it went down with round robin. Main bracket is a bit less meaningful to show as many, so you're gonna see less bracket upsets. Let's highlight the ones that are the most impressive, both in pools and out of pools. Best player upsets. We have Kaber beating Bambi with an upset factor of 3. Awesome B beating Bollefar with an upset factor of also 3. We have Sloborob, I hope I've said that correctly, beating Raven with an upset factor of another 3. We had Radagast beating Solar with an upset factor of another 3. We had Joelot over Black Renown with an upset factor of 4, which is the only reason Black Renown did not get out of his pool as first. And to continue, in pools, we had Pyrie beating Canary Bird with an upset factor of 4. ASLK beating Raven with an upset factor of 4. Alex Stark beating Pfeiffer with an upset value of 4. Hilmer beating Eyelift with an upset value of 6. And lastly, Nezoxy over Hope with an upset value of 6. And now we have the best player upsets in top 64. Victorious over Bambi with an upset factor of 3. Zyro over Mr. Aska with an upset factor of 3. Jägerlilla over Max with an upset factor of 5. And you already know which one the last one is, but I want to hear from you. How big do you think the last upset factor is? How big do you think the last upset factor is? 9? Let's go Tylon with 8. So, as a reference, at Midgard, Marwyn beat Woofy, and that was an upset factor of 8. Tylon over Lancelot was an upset factor, I have never seen this number so high, of 10. I have never seen an upset factor this high in my life. Upset factor of 10. Dude, I don't even know. I have no idea. Anyway. Best losers runs. Everyone knows about Lancelot's losers run, which is obviously the best, having played 10 sets after being knocked down to losers and win a run by Tylon. But can you tell me what the other longest losers runs were? Out of memory. Esa? Any more suggestions? Solar, Tsun, or Emmy? Minimo, Emmy? Okay, I'll keep going. So, the second longest losers run was to Anvil, who played 5 sets after being knocked down to losers in winner round 2 by I Refuse. The next spot actually goes to Emmy, Tsun, Black Renown, and Zyro, who all played 4 sets in losers. The first 3 were knocked down to losers in winner round by Anvil, Woofy, and BG Tao, respectively. And Zyro started his day in losers, making his the most impressive run from having started on loser's side. Much like Common at Midgard, if I remember correctly. The longest runs. Okay. Bit of a different statistic. How long were the longest run? I'm gonna show the first one. Lancelot leads the statistic with 6 sets day 1 and 11 sets day 2 for a total of 17 sets. I have no idea how it was ever intended to beat Steve, because with that mental stamina, I would not even be able to hold my controller. However, what are the next biggest losers runs? I mean, not losers run, the next biggest runs, longest runs. Any guesses? Mine? You keep saying yours, dude. You keep saying me. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Chungus, Anvil, and I Refuse all tied for second, with 13 sets played between both days. And to keep with tradition, here's the seeding factor by region. Unlike Midgard, the DQs from the pools were less random and were more systematic, with no pool having more than 1 DQ, if any at all. This means that we can start counting seeding factor from top 96, removing the people who placed 113th, who are also the people who DQ'd, and 97th, who got a freebie on the last slot. I will show the results both from top 96 and top 64 as a consequence. We also had way less out of the Nordics invaders, so I will only show the Nordic countries. I will preface, this is not to offend anyone, this is for fun. Keep in mind that Denmark, Finland, and Iceland all have a very low sample sizes, especially in top 64, therefore their values are much more volatile. This means that Sweden was underseeded by 0.37, Norway was underseeded by 0.49, Denmark was overseeded by 0.16 placings, of course, and Finland was overseeded by 0.25 placings, and Iceland by 0.83. The thing is here, with Mo being removed, as well as color, there is a lot of people in Sweden and Norway who both got +1s, and since you can't count Mo and color's additions to this, you're going to see a lot more positives than negatives. That's kind of the way it is. Because Mo didn't get a minus, he just wasn't included in the data, so you're gonna see a lot of positives the higher up you go. And the people who prevailed the longer in bracket were Sweden and Norway. So this is the result. In top 64, Sweden seems to be underseeded by half a placing, roughly. Norway by another half a placing. Denmark by the same amount, because no Danish people were knocked out of the pools. And Finland and Iceland, you can see it there. But they had a really, really low sample size, so I wouldn't get too pent up on that. So how close was the seeding? Because there were a few DQs, let's calculate how many people out of top 96 and top 64 either went -1, 0, or 1 with their seeding factor. And doing this gives us the seeding accuracy of the TO, just like I did for Midgard. If you count for top 96, you get a 66.67% match for seeding. And if you do it for top 64, sorry, top 96, if you do it for top 64, you get 61.90. This is actually slightly lower than what it was on Midgard. But I mean, it's just a fun stat. I'd like to first reiterate that none of this was made to offend anyone, and was purely made for entertainment. Big thank you to the TOs for having made, from what I hear, was a really enjoyable event for the players. That said, I can't help but criticize Round Robin's pools at least a little bit, because it was kinda bad. Some people got a huge advantage from losing their pool instead of getting second when seeded first. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but I mean, yeah. Event was good, but why was it in Norway? I mean, okay, let's not exaggerate. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm more than willing to make more presentations of future regional tournaments if the reception is positive. Any questions? Any questions? This is the sheet. As you can see, very similar to the other one. Very, very similar to the other one. All by hand, of course, etc. This was their original seeding, as you can see here. And so on and so forth. And as a matter of fact, I will do just like I did last time. If you want to experiment, who was the biggest negative upset factor? I can answer that if you want. I already have a person in mind. Let's just do this. Oops, is it not here? Here then. We do a bit of this. We do format. Then we do data. We do sort. We do advance. And we do this. And we choose column Z. And we sort. And we get that the worst seeding offset is Vax, who got -4. Why are they so scared of me? So, yeah. And then the other notables are Raven from Iceland, Solar from Iceland, Leovin, which had a very unfortunate, extremely unfortunate pool. I am so sorry. Minimo, who got extremely unlucky. Just unlucky. I don't want to rag on anyone, but the fact that Pfeiffer got an easier bracket losing his pool than he would have had by winning it is just on a whole other level. It's just a whole other level, dude. Hope is up there too, with -3, right? And Elias, BG Tao, also a -3. Any more questions? I killed the Min. Is that Emmy? That shit didn't feel like a -3. I mean, you got boned by Lance early. Had to play Hilltop Store Seeds? Correct. That is very true. And honestly, I'm not sure if whether I'm gonna continue doing it, but if round robin pools continues to be a thing, I think I will normalize the sweat factor per se, because I feel that is a better representation of actually upsetting your seed. Because in all honesty, I mean, the tournament, it was good and whatever, but I mean, it's unfortunate that so many upsets happened. And the difference between round robin pools and double elimination pools is that in double elimination pools, if you get out early, you don't punish other people who are in winners. You punish people who are in losers. And round robin pools does not work that way because there's 2 seeds that get out of winners. So by getting out second instead of first, and a lot of people doing that, it's kind of like, yeah, you fuck over other people who played well, basically. Instead of fucking over people who played worse than their opponent. That's kind of how it feels. Sweat factor is good and funny statistic. I mean, I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate.